Welcome back to part 2 of the differential assembly video. This one was kind of epic. I had to split it up into 2 parts just to put things in perspective for you. In all, it took about 2 weeks to film this video, and a part of that was because of the parts that I had to order and things, but there was still many hours spent getting the information that I put in this video for you. But don't worry, it has a happy ending. I'll quit talking now. Enjoy the video. All right, I'm sure the race is fully seated. Now, let's talk about this guy. As I said, I've already made my setup bearing. My old shim, I think was 25 or 26, 23. 23-ish, let's say, is my old shim. All right, 21. Whatever. From the gear tooth pattern that we observed before, according to the Ford PDF on installation, it said it needed a thinner pinion head shim. This one is somewhere in the 12 to 14 range, so I'm going to try this one. Can I add a little oil to this new bearing? Once again, I am not installing the pinion seal or any of that yet. I'm going to wait till final assembly to do that. Right now, we just want a solid gear tooth pattern. Got that almost perfect. Just running it down. Now I just need to set the preload. Just to see where we're at. 16 to 28 inch-pounds, there's nothing on there at all. Yet, and it doesn't take much, which is why I'm practicing doing it this way. So that when I do this for the last time, I do it for the last time. I'm just barely in. Just like about 19, so 16 to 28. And now I'm at what looks like, well, right there it was just a shade over 15, but going this way, that big mark is 25. So I'm just under the 20, so it looks like about 19. So that's in spec. Beginning to understand the black arts of differential setup. I had to. I've done it enough at this point. I've practiced a lot on this housing. A lot. Cool thing about this paint is, it seems to never dry. Sucky thing about this paint is, it seems to never dry. Gonna rotate it and put pressure on it. In both directions, so I can check the drive and the coast side. You're most concerned about the drive side when you're setting up new gears, the coast side when you're setting up old gears. I suppose I should have also checked the backlash, but my main goal is to try to figure out if that pinion shim is correct. If it is, I'll recheck the backlash. And maybe I should put a little bit of new paint on there because I'm not quite getting a good reading, so. Coast side looks out towards the edge. Coast side is the concave side here. The drive side, kind of non-existent. I'm going to check the backlash really quick. That looks like 6, which, well, actually is a little too tight. Should be 8 to 12 thousandths. I'm afraid that if I move shims from this side to this side, that it might be too much. We just have to see. But that is so close. It's 7, so it's just under spec. We can still check the gear tooth pattern though. I'm not getting a good reading with these contact patterns, so I'm gonna clean a few teeth off, put some fresh paint on, and then recheck. That should be enough. Now I realize my backlash is too tight, but I'm more concerned with pinion depth right now. Just want to make sure that the pinion is making contact where it needs to make contact, which is, I'm hoping, dead nuts in the center of that tooth. Looks like the drive side is high and in towards the toe. Before I go in and start messing with the pinion shim again, which according to some literature, I need to put a thinner pinion shim in there, but that's like the thinnest one I've got. Other literature I'm looking at says increase the backlash. It's easier to increase backlash. I'm just going to give that a try. I'm going to take one shim out of here and move it over to here. See where we end up. I have one shim over here that I can move over. I'm going to employ a different strategy with these and just put the bulk of them in the center, sort of like a sandwich. So my thin shims in the middle, my thicker ones on the outside. That feels like too much. Way out. It's too much. It's 20. It's way too much backlash. Or 19, I should say. Just for the heck of it, let's check the pattern. What's happened to our pattern? I got really nicely defined stuff on the coast side. And then not so much on the drive side, a little bit. Still looks biased towards the toe on the drive side. I'm just gonna try some fresh paint and just move this paint around, because I'm getting tired of taking this differential apart. And I just want to make sure that whatever adjustment I make is going to have some effect, because right now it's like it's not having any. The drive side seems to have moved up on this outer edge, and the coast side also, just at the tippy top. Okay, looking how my pattern is towards the top, but yet it seems somewhat centered. I'm wondering if I decrease backlash, if that'll get me right into the neighborhood of where I want to be. I have very little adjustment left. In fact, next to nothing. So I'm going to try something somewhat unorthodox. I'm going to add one more shim on this side and do nothing over here, and see if that somehow helps, because when I took one shim out of here and moved it over to here is what I got that huge gap that I have now. I'd almost rather be on the tight side than the loose side, but too tight is too tight. And we were missing it by about 1,000. $13. Needs to be 8 to 12. It's actually 14. So it's still too much, oddly. We move that shim, and yet it's still too much. There's weirdness happening here. But we did move it a few thousandths. I wonder what it did to the pattern. So I've moved the pattern here towards the center, and it's just high on the tooth. So I think I just got to move it down in there some more. And I'm wondering if decreasing that backlash, getting it into spec is going to be the trick. Oh, back down to 7. Oh, barely 8. This walks the line of the minimum spec. This is minimum spec territory, but barely in. 8 to 12 is what we need. It's the best backlash reading I've gotten yet. I'm not really adding paint so much as moving around what's there. This paints a different picture, literally. I'm so close. And there. But on the coast side, I'm out towards the heel. So I think the backlash is good, but I think there's still something to be done as far as opinion's concerned. I think that needs to move still. I think I know that definitively now. I just need to figure out which way. Welcome back, kids. I've removed the pinion from the differential again, and I'm going to reset the pinion depth. Now, up to this point, I keep going thinner. In fact, the last shim that I put in there was somewhere around 13 thousandths. When I talked to Steve at Ford Performance about setting this up, he says typically they usually go between 24 and 28 thousandths, which it's odd to me that I keep putting thinner and thinner shims in, I get no closer to what I'm looking for. And I just went on the internet, found some other reference material that said I should be going thicker. So what do? Well, I'm going to start thicker this time. In fact, I've got these two shims here, when combined together, come out to about 25, 24. The original shim that was in this differential when I first got it was this one here, and that one came out to also about 23 or so. So, in other words, I'm kind of going back to the beginning. And I'm going to start with what was in there originally, now that I've got everything set up properly. And we'll check the pattern. We'll see where we're at. Hopefully we're in a better place than we are right now. Here we go again. I wonder if I could get to the point where I can just impact this. Remember, this is all practice. If I just nailed that, I've been doing this way too much. Yeah, it's a little light. It's only about 5. I'm not going to do this for final setup. I'm just sick of going through the process each and every time when I'm just trying to check gear tooth pattern. But the amount of crush that I get here is important. Actually, I could let that ride. I am 19. I'm going to take some time and clean the paint off this pinion. It's getting a little messy in here. Yeah, it's gotten kind of ridiculous. I'm just going to clean off what I can. At least on part of it. Because I washed it out, I'm going to put fresh oil in these bearings. Will the paint hurt anything? Nah. If it did, they wouldn't use it. Yeah. It's only a shade over 5. We definitely need to move over a bit. If I remember right, this shim over on this side was a thicker one. So I'm wondering if I swap this for a thinner one on the other side, if I'll have what I need. Because I just need to move a little bit. That one's a 22, that one's a 24. So maybe they are all the same size. I thought there were thinner ones. 20, 23. Yeah, these are all the same, it appears. Except for that one's 19. Seems to be on the lighter side. So I'm going to move that one over to there and that one over to there. It's only 6. If I push it, maybe 7. That's not enough. If I move a whole shim over, it's going to be too much. My biggest complaint about this Ford kit is no variance in the different size shims. When I did the transmission with Paul, he had these peel shims that could net you smaller increments. These, it's like 1/2 millimeter or nothing, which honestly isn't helping here. $15. $12 is max. This is maddening. And I'd rather be too tight than too loose. So here's what I'm thinking. I take out one of these small shims on this side, maybe make it a little bit thinner. Maybe I shave a little bit off of it and then move it over to here. That's what I'm thinking, because I just need it over this way a couple of thousandths. But before we go there, Why don't we just check the gear pattern and see where the pinion is at? And if that's in a better place, since I've come up quite a bit since the last shimming, then I will pursue this until I get it right. Because that way we know that that shim is right. Once we get these shims right, they're right. According to what I'm seeing here, we've got top heel contact on the drive side of the gears. Remember, with new gears, we're most concerned with the drive side as opposed to the coast side. So we come down here, and this is Dana's website, which I'll link in the description as far as gear tooth pattern is concerned. These are for face hobbed gears, top heel contact, pinion position shim correct, decrease backlash. Now we already know that we have too much backlash in the system. We know we need to decrease it anyway. So let's move towards that and recheck our pattern and see where we end up. I've been bouncing this one shim back and forth and I'm getting nowhere. Therefore, I'm going to try a different approach. I'm going to see how thick we've got. We've got 310. This is an experiment. Try 3 of these larger ones. See what 3 of these are good for. 314, which is darn close. Got 251, so I need to increase this distance. And if I have 310 over there and 251 over here, bump this up to like 255, we're only dealing with thousandths of an inch here, so we don't have to go too far. But adding one of these shims takes it up to 267. And that's too much. So we got to split the difference here somewhere. And I'm either going to have to shave a little bit off of a shim to try to make it happen, or I'm going to have to find a way to come up with a thickness for this side that is greater than 254. I just created this stack that comes out to 257, which is a good number. 256, 257. 254, so it's just bumping it up ever so slightly. And this side over here was at 301. Now if I remove one of these, that's substantially different if I'm honest. It's like 15 thousandths, so that's a large margin that I don't like. So if I can bring this down to like in the 290s, like 297-ish. It'll be a happy place. That's pretty darn close. That's almost exactly what I had, but I wonder if that would be happy at 289. Yeah, we are 16, 12's the limit. So we've definitely got to add more over here and take some from over here. That's way under. This is just ridiculous. I mean, that's way too tight. And all we did was take one shim out and put it over here. And that's what I mean when I say that the shims that were provided are just not enough for an adjustment. Chasing my tail for long enough, time to take action. When I measure the thickness of the shims that I have over here on the left, I come out to like 274, 275. Now, if I take another shim and add it from the other side, I end up with like 301, 302. So it's like a huge jump from one to the next. I don't have like an incremental, like what would be really great. Actually, this is like around, yeah, 279. What would be really great is if I could have like a 272 in here, because I just need to move it back a little bit. I am going to modify one of these shims by making it thinner. I need a thinner shim, I'm gonna make a thinner shim. And if I mess it up, I have more to use, but I'm just gonna shave off a few thousandths off of that and try to get myself in that sweet spot of like a 2 270, 271-ish place. I've got a rag in the end of this tube to prevent junk from going in there, but I'm just gonna try and, like I say, make this thinner. It still says 21. Yeah, I don't know what's happening. I'm living in crazy, bizarre world. Yeah, now it's up to 290. No matter, I still need to bring that down. So I'm gonna keep filing this guy down until I get it to a happy place. It's like I'm doing nothing. Yeah, I'm just making it shiny. It's still 22. Still need to go more. It's like it's just ignoring me. I'm still 20. You're expecting me to change somehow? By taking away metal? How is that possible? It's like I'm not doing anything at all. It still reads 21, 22. Progress. I've got this down to 270, 272-ish. I'm going to give that a try. Now it's important that we maintain the same clearance because there is a certain amount of preload that needs to be on these bearings. I think I've got it just in there. It might be a little light at this point. That's also something to be considered. Still not enough. Barely any at all. It was a lot of effort for not a lot of result. Maybe what I need to do is take my thinner shim out of here and put it over here. Can't say I'm not disappointed for having messed with this thing for way too long, but I just dug up a 11/1000th shim that I'm gonna try to slide into just this side because I don't think my preload's right anymore. I think it's a bit thin. Therefore, I'm wondering if I jam this 12 into this side, if I'll be where I need to be. I should need 2 pry bars to get that out. Since I don't, that's why I think my preload isn't correct. $15, 3/1000ths out. Still gotta bring it in more.
So what did we do?
Same thing we've been doing, pinky. Try to take over the world. It's at 9. 8, 9, 8.5. I'm in right where I like to be on the snug side. That's it. It's slightly towards the toe and it's a little deep, but that's okay. My tolerance is a little tight, but there it is. That's the pattern. So pinion depth is correct. Backlash is correct. If we look on the coast side, we're just about in the middle. We're out towards the edge a little bit, but these are new gears, so we care more about the drive side, which is bang in the middle. Finally. Mother, father. Oh. I just need a minute. Now that we finally have the pattern correct, I'm gonna disassemble everything, put it together for real this time. Pinion seal, new crush sleeve, new nut on the top, all of it. Get it all ready, done, complete. We wanna make absolutely sure that we get our shims and everything exactly back where they were when we took them out. Exactly. Step one, well, we're not going to need this crush sleeve anymore. We're going to save our setup bearing in case we need to use this again, because as stated earlier, this is the same size bearing that's on a GM 12 bolt 8.8, so this can be used for more than one type of differential. Definitely going to keep this around. These are our shims that we installed. Do not move them. I'll leave them right where they are and get our brand new pinion bearing. Going to take it over to the press and install it for real. Make sure it spins so you're not pressing on the cage. Not worried about that. Okay, we're pressed on and ready. Outer bearing, we're going to start with a brand new crush sleeve, which I have two right here. Our pinion flange has a little bit of a groove where the old pinion seal used to ride. To correct for this, I have, and I'll put a part number in the description for you, I have this, which is a sleeve that's going to go over the end and renew this surface. And that way my pinion seal's got brand new surface to come in contact with, as opposed to the old grooved surface. Going to clean around the outside of it, make sure there's no debris here. Clean around the inside of this, make sure this is also ready. I'm grateful that it came with its own installation tool. All I have to do now, hammer it on. It's a new sealing surface for my pinion seal. Before I forget, I'm going to install the front pinion bearing. Give it one final lube with gear oil. Stick it down inside its bore. Super, super important. Do not forget the oil slinger, which is next. You need that. Before I install the pinion seal, I'm going to put a bead of, even though this seal actually has like a special, looks like sealer on the outside of this, it's still recommended to put a seal of, I'm using ultra black RTV because this is high oil resistance type of RTV. Just going to go around with a bead of it around the outside of the seal here. I'm going to use a seal driver to install it. A little bit of the RTV came out, just going to clean it up. In addition to, around the outside of the seal, a bead of silicone on the inside of these splines on the flange is also something that's recommended, because the oil will seep out between this and the shaft on the pinion. Going to take some oil and lube up my new pinion bearing. Now this time it's for real. So I'm installing a new nut that has the Loctite already installed. These are one use only. Pinion seal already had some lube on it. If it didn't have any, put some grease on there. I'm just gonna run this down with the impact. I'm not gonna tighten it. That I'm gonna save for the breaker bars. All right, no more slack. This part we set up by the drag. So this sets the bearing preload here. and the drag should be 16 to 28 inch-pounds. Right now there's probably nothing, or next to it. Got 0, or just maybe 1 or 2 inch-pounds. So from here on out, tiny increments to try and dial this in. I'm going to use the pinion flange tool, and this will put a crush on the crush sleeve, which will in turn put a preload on that bearing. 16 to 28 inch-pounds. That's where we're looking to be. Tiny increments. So just a little bit at a time until you got it dialed in, because an inch-pound, it's like a mile. I'm not kidding when I say tiny increments. You're taking that sleeve from being fully extended to crushed down. Not nearly enough. Starting to get a little drag. I'll just check it for the heck of it. Maybe 5. So we're just starting to register. That just moved a fraction of an inch and changed that significantly. You can't back this off. So if it doesn't work out, you got to start over with a new crush sleeve and a new nut. And that is so stinking close. It's just a little over 10. I'm looking for 16 to 28. So I just need just a skosh more. That jumped all the way up to 19, just that little bit. And I'm going to leave it there because we're in spec. Well, part of me says, just a little bit more. Just a little bit. Because yeah, that's 19. So it is technically in spec. New bearings, so I just want literally just a touch more. Just a touch. I'm at 21. 21-ish. I'm going to leave it right there. One last lube of my bearings. Not that they won't be submerged in oil when it's all done, but, you know, never have too much lube. Nothing's changed other than a new pinion bearing. Putting everything back where I took it out, where it all came out perfect. Now I'm going to torque them to 100 foot-pounds. We'll start at 70 and then go to 100. I think the spec is 97 to 102. Once again, link in the description to additional information that will be useful. Let's recheck everything and hope I just torqued that for the last time. Yes. Seems tighter. It is. Really? Backlash is the bane of my existence. That is barely 5. What the heck happened here? At least this, we don't have to undo our pinion nut or anything, but looks like we're going to have to make another minor adjustment to get backlash correct, because that's only 6. We just need just a smidge more. 8 to 12 is what we're aiming for. after some messing around. I've been keeping a tally of the sizes here, and I measured them both together and they come out to 0.551, and I try to keep that measurement. So I keep swapping things around until it adds up close to this. Actually, 267 and 287 add up to 584, something like that. Anyway, 554, I'm sorry. It's just about 3 thousandths over, so that's okay. I want to make sure that I have this measurement so that my preload is the same, and it is. I'm going to torque it down and recheck it, but right now, from where I'm sitting, I'm just right around, between 8 and 9, let's say. So I'm in spec on the tight side where I like to be. Gonna run through the gear tooth pattern one more time to make sure everything is where it's supposed to be. Breathe a sigh of relief. We're good. We're maybe a little bit towards the toe, but if you look up here at this other one, that one's meshed up perfect. So it's slightly in towards the toe. I'm gonna leave it at that. On the coast side, I'm not worried, that's towards the heel, but still it looks like a nice feathered pattern. The important side is the drive side, and everything I'm seeing on the drive side up in here looks a little tight towards the toe, but I've already moved the pinion about as far as I'm gonna move, and I am a little close on my backlash. So as these gears wear, I'm hoping they come closer to center, but calling this done. And there you have it, the setup on the Ford 8.8 and also GM 12-bolt differential. The takeaways: pinion setup bearing. Make sure you get two of the exact same bearing. You can purchase a setup bearing separately, but honestly, it's gonna cost you quite a bit more. I suggest you hog it out the same way I did on mine. That being said, make sure that it's the exact same bearing that you're gonna use when you do your final assembly. That information came with a lot of pain and suffering. Additionally, as far as setting your backlash up, make sure you measure the thickness of the shims on both sides, add them together, and try to end up with that same thickness when you're all done. If you wish to decrease backlash, you want to add shims to this side and remove shims from this side. If you want to increase backlash, you add shims to this side, remove from this side in equal amounts. You're trying to swap them from one side to the other. And that will come with some trial and error, and then when you're all said and done, check it again. As far as pinion depth, well, that really comes at the gear pattern. So you pretty much got to go through all these steps to get there. So I would suggest reusing an old crush sleeve to start with, not installing your pinion seal to start with, until you get it dialed in to the point where you know you're at least close or as close as you're going to be. Usually starts out about 24 to 28 thousandths on the pinion head shim, and that comes from somebody I talked to at Ford Performance. I will put links in the description to parts, additional information, gear tooth patterns, things like that to also help you. If you have other automotive questions, I'd ask you to head over to EricTheCarGuy.com, Google+, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. If you wish to connect with me socially, be safe, have fun, stay dirty. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.